A Waffen-SS unit had been surrounded for days. Both flanks had collapsed. Ammunition would be gone before dawn. The order came through by radio. 4 words: hold until the end. Did they question it? No. Did they retreat? No. Did they survive? No. The Waffen-SS was not the largest fighting force in Nazi Germany. At its peak in 1944, it numbered 950,000 men, against a Wehrmacht of over 7 million. It was not the oldest. It was not the most experienced. What separated it from every other military force in the history of warfare, was the nature of the bond that held it together. Not discipline. Not fear. Not national duty. Something older and more absolute than any of those things. What makes a soldier treat retreat as betrayal and surrender as sin? How do you build an army where devotion replaces discipline? And what does absolute allegiance until death actually look like on a battlefield? The answers don't just explain the Waffen-SS. They explain something about human beings that most of us would prefer not to understand. The Waffen-SS was built on an idea, and the idea was more dangerous than any weapon it ever carried. Before we continue, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already and leaving a like on the video to support the channel. In 1933, the SS numbered 52,000 men. It was a bodyguard, personal, political, ceremonial. Heinrich Himmler had other ideas. What he built over the next decade was not an army in the conventional sense. It was a biological experiment in human weaponry. Every Waffen-SS recruit was required to prove Aryan ancestry dating back to 1750. Physical requirements were among the strictest in military history. Candidates for the Leibstandard, Hitler's personal guard regiment, had to stand at least 180 centimeters tall, possess perfect teeth, and carry no criminal record. Of every 100 men who applied, fewer than 15 were accepted. What Himmler was building was not a unit. It was a standard. The idea that the perfect soldier was not trained, he was selected, then forged. By 1944, that forging process had produced 38 divisions. All of them bound by the same oath. All of them answerable to the same man. Not to Germany, to him. But physical perfection doesn't win battles. What the Waffen-SS had that no other army possessed lived somewhere deeper than muscle and bone. Every army in history has asked its soldiers to fight. Most ask them to fight for a country. Some ask them to fight for an idea. The Waffen-SS asked its soldiers to fight for a person, and to make that commitment in language that left no exit. The oath was not metaphorical. It was spoken aloud in formation, under torchlight, in front of witnesses. The words were these: I vow to you, Adolf Hitler, as Führer and Chancellor of the German Reich, loyalty and bravery. I vow to you and to the leaders that you set for me, absolute allegiance until death. So help me God. Absolute allegiance until death. Not until the war ends. Not until the orders change. Until death. This oath transformed retreat into betrayal and surrender into sin. The Waffen-SS soldier who refused to die was not disobeying an order. He was breaking a vow made before God. To a single man. By name. When an army swears absolute allegiance until death, what happens to that army when death is the only thing left on the battlefield? The Wehrmacht fought for Germany. That distinction sounds simple. It was not. A Wehrmacht soldier who retreated under impossible odds was exercising military judgment. A Waffen-SS soldier who did the same was violating a personal covenant sworn before God to Adolf Hitler. The psychological distance between those two positions is the distance between a professional obligation and a religious one. And it produced soldiers who behaved in ways that conventional military logic cannot explain. Units that held positions after their ammunition was exhausted, fighting with knives and entrenching tools when the rifles were empty. Positions that were reinforced not because relief was coming, but because the oath demanded it. The Waffen-SS motto was stamped on every belt buckle and engraved on every dress dagger its soldiers carried. Meine Ehre heißt Treue. My honor is loyalty. Not my duty. Not my mission. My honor. Honor is not negotiable. Honor does not calculate odds. This is what made the Waffen-SS unlike any army before or since. Not its weapons. Not its training. The thing it carried that no other army has ever been asked to carry. Kharkov. March 1943. 3 Waffen-SS divisions, Leibstandard, Das Reich, Totenkopf, advancing through a city of 900,000 people, against a Red Army that outnumbered them 7-1. 4 days of house-to-house fighting. Every block, every building, every floor. The SS Panzer Corps lost 11,500 men. The Red Army lost over 80,000 across the campaign. What those numbers don't capture, what no number can capture, is the mechanism behind them. Positions held not because relief was coming, but because the oath demanded they be held. Ground taken not because the odds permitted it, but because the oath did not recognize odds. When a Waffen-SS unit ran out of ammunition, it did not withdraw to regroup. It held with what remained. When what remained was nothing, it held anyway. The numbers tell what happened. They don't tell why a force outnumbered 7-1 kept advancing, kept holding, kept fighting past every point where fighting stopped making sense. The oath tells why. By 1944, the Waffen-SS divisions had casualty rates that would have broken any conventional military force. The Leibstandard SS Adolf Hitler, Hitler's own Guard division, lost its full complement of men 3 times over between 1941 and 1945. The racial and physical requirements that had defined the original SS had been quietly abandoned. Himmler's biological experiment had run out of specimens. The divisions that bore the SS insignia in 1945 bore little physical resemblance to those that had crossed into the Soviet Union in 1941. But the oath remained. The motto remained. And the men who wore the insignia, whoever they now were, wherever they had come from, fought with the same absolute refusal to accept defeat that the oath demanded. Not because victory was possible. Because the oath did not contain a clause for impossibility. Absolute allegiance until death does not end when the war is lost. It ends when the man who swore it stops breathing. And in April 1945, in the rubble of Berlin, that is exactly what it looked like. The Waffen-SS was not the largest army in the war. It was not the most powerful. What it was, what it remains in the military record, is the most complete example in modern history of what happens when an institution replaces duty with devotion and transforms personal loyalty into sacred obligation. Every army asks its soldiers to be willing to die. The Waffen-SS asked its soldiers to treat survival as secondary to the vow. That difference, small in language, vast in consequence, is what made it capable of things no other force achieved, and things no other force committed. The oath created soldiers who did not break. It also created soldiers who did not stop. Both of those things came from the same 4 words spoken under torchlight before a war that would kill millions. Absolute allegiance until death. They meant it when they said it. The battlefield proved they meant it. They did not need to be ordered to fight. They needed to be ordered to stop. Nobody ever gave that order.